Friends, thank you for being here today. What if I told you that over the past 36 months, Canada has quietly assembled the most comprehensive energy infrastructure in human history, a system so strategically integrated and technologically advanced that it provides Canada with the ability to determine global energy prices, control international energy security, and ensure the economic viability or collapse of entire continents through decisions made in boardrooms that most of the world has never heard of? And what if I told you that this energy superpower status was achieved not through any single resource discovery, but through the systematic integration of hydroelectric, nuclear, oil, natural gas, renewable, and emerging energy technologies into a unified network that makes Canada the world's only truly energy-independent nation while providing leverage over every energy-dependent economy on Earth? This is not how energy empires announce their global dominance. The transformation appears in corporate earnings reports as infrastructure modernization, operational efficiency improvements, and routine capacity expansion. Government communications describe Canadian energy developments as environmental responsibility initiatives, economic diversification strategies, and international cooperation programs. Energy industry publications report these changes as market developments rather than systematic construction of comprehensive global energy control. Yet when examined collectively, these energy infrastructure investments represent the most sophisticated strategic resource integration ever attempted by any nation, a comprehensive system that transforms Canada from a regional energy producer into the gravitational center of global energy relationships, while ensuring Canadian control over the supply, distribution, and pricing of energy resources that determine international economic competitiveness. I have analyzed the infrastructure investments, traced the corporate partnerships, and documented the institutional frameworks that reveal the scope of this transformation. What I discovered is the most ambitious energy strategy in modern history, a plan that integrates every major energy technology into unified systems that provide Canada with unprecedented influence over global energy markets while ensuring Canadian energy security, regardless of international political or economic disruptions. The world thinks this is about Canadian energy development and export expansion. They are witnessing the construction of energy-based global hegemony that makes traditional forms of international power secondary to resource control. The Canadian energy integration began with recognition that the future belongs to nations that control comprehensive energy portfolios rather than single energy sources. While other countries specialized in oil, natural gas, nuclear power, or renewable energy, Canada recognized that true energy independence required mastery of all energy technologies integrated into systems that could provide unlimited energy security while creating dependencies among nations that lacked comprehensive energy capabilities. The strategy operates through the National Energy Security Framework, a classified program launched 42 months ago under the designation Project Energy Dominance. The framework coordinates development across all energy sectors to create integrated capabilities that provide Canada with strategic advantages over nations dependent on limited energy sources or foreign energy supplies. The framework integrates 5 complementary energy systems that work together to provide unlimited domestic energy security, while creating export capabilities that enable Canada to serve as the primary energy supplier for any nation seeking reliable, comprehensive, and competitively priced energy services. The first system leverages Canada's massive hydroelectric resources through the Continental Hydro Grid, a network of facilities that can generate over 400 gigawatts of clean, renewable electricity, while providing voltage regulation and grid stability services that enable other energy systems to operate at optimal efficiency. Canadian hydroelectric capabilities exceed the total electrical generation capacity of most developed nations, while providing the foundation for energy-intensive industries, including aluminum smelting, data processing, cryptocurrency mining, and manufacturing operations that require continuous, low-cost electrical power. The hydro system provides the baseline energy security that enables Canada to develop other energy technologies without concern about energy supply interruptions, while offering electrical export services to neighboring regions facing electrical generation shortages or reliability challenges. The second system maximizes Canada's nuclear capabilities through the Advanced Nuclear Development Network, integrating existing CANDU reactors with small modular reactor technologies and next-generation nuclear systems that provide continuous baseload power while supporting hydrogen production, desalination, and industrial heating applications. Canadian nuclear technologies achieve energy outputs that exceed the nuclear capabilities of established nuclear powers while providing technological solutions for countries seeking nuclear energy development without dependence on American, Russian, or Chinese nuclear technology suppliers. The nuclear system enables Canada to provide comprehensive energy services including electrical generation, industrial process heat, hydrogen production, and desalination services that many countries require but cannot develop independently due to technological limitations or political restrictions. The third system optimizes Canada's fossil fuel resources through the integrated Hydrocarbon Management system. coordinating oil sands development, natural gas production, and petrochemical manufacturing to maximize resource efficiency while minimizing environmental impact, and ensuring Canadian energy companies maintain competitive advantages over international fossil fuel producers. Canadian fossil fuel systems achieve production costs and environmental performance that exceed competing producers while providing energy security for domestic requirements and export capabilities that enable Canada to serve international markets without dependence on unstable fossil fuel suppliers. The fossil fuel integration ensures that Canada maintains energy advantages during transition periods, while other nations struggle with fossil fuel supply interruptions or price volatility that affects their economic competitiveness and energy security. The fourth system develops Canada's renewable energy potential through the National Renewable Integration Platform, coordinating wind, solar, geothermal, and biomass energy production with advanced energy storage systems that enable renewable energy to provide reliable baseload power rather than intermittent supplemental generation. Canadian renewable systems achieve capacity factors and reliability levels that surpass renewable energy development in other nations, while providing technologies that enable countries to achieve renewable energy targets without dependence on Chinese solar panels or European wind turbines. The renewable integration demonstrates Canadian capabilities in emerging energy technologies while providing export opportunities for countries seeking renewable energy development assistance and equipment that serves their national energy objectives, rather than foreign technology supplier interests. The fifth system coordinates emerging energy technologies through the Advanced Energy Research Consortium, integrating hydrogen production, fusion energy development, advanced battery systems, and energy efficiency technologies that provide Canada with advantages in energy technologies that will define future energy markets. Canadian advanced energy capabilities include hydrogen production at scales that exceed current global hydrogen demand, fusion energy research that surpasses international programs, and energy storage systems that enable Canadian energy exports to provide energy security for international customers, regardless of seasonal or weather-related supply variations. The advanced energy research ensures Canadian leadership in energy technologies that will replace current systems while providing competitive advantages over nations dependent on imported energy technologies or foreign energy expertise. The mathematical scope of Canadian energy advantages becomes clear when these integrated systems operate collectively. Canada can produce over 2,000 terawatt-hours of electrical energy annually while consuming fewer than 600 terawatt-hours domestically, providing over 1,400 terawatt-hours for export to international customers or energy-intensive industries. Canadian energy production capabilities exceed the total energy consumption of the United States, European Union, or China individually, while providing this energy at costs lower than competing suppliers, and with reliability levels that competing systems cannot match. The strategic implications extend beyond energy production to encompass comprehensive economic influence over customer nations. Countries dependent on Canadian energy supplies gain immediate competitive advantages over nations using more expensive or less reliable energy sources while becoming integrated into Canadian-controlled energy systems. International recognition of Canadian energy capabilities accelerated as early customers achieved measurable economic advantages through access to Canadian energy services. American states began negotiating directly with Canadian energy companies for electrical supply agreements that provided more reliable service at lower costs than traditional American electrical utilities could offer. California signed comprehensive agreements for Canadian hydroelectric power that reduced electrical costs for state operations by 35% while improving service reliability during extreme weather events. Texas established partnerships with Canadian energy companies for backup power generation during emergency conditions that traditional American providers could not guarantee. European countries facing energy security challenges began establishing long-term partnerships with Canadian energy suppliers, after recognizing that Canadian energy services provided better reliability and pricing compared to traditional Russian, Middle Eastern, or domestic European energy sources. Germany signed agreements for Canadian hydrogen supply that enabled German industrial operations to reduce energy costs while meeting environmental compliance requirements through Canadian clean energy technologies. France established partnerships for Canadian nuclear technology and uranium supply that reduced French dependence on unstable international nuclear fuel markets. The European Union's energy crisis response revealed the extent of Canadian energy advantages when traditional suppliers proved unreliable during geopolitical tensions. European industrial companies discovered that Canadian energy partnerships provided operational stability that domestic European energy sources could not guarantee during periods of international disruption. European aluminum smelting operations began relocating to Canadian facilities that offered guaranteed low-cost hydroelectric power, while European facilities faced energy cost volatility that made production economically unviable. BASF established Canadian chemical processing plants that accessed integrated Canadian energy systems, providing both electrical power and industrial feedstock from coordinated hydrocarbon operations. European data center operators relocated critical operations to Canadian facilities that could guarantee unlimited electrical capacity for expanding computational requirements, while European operations faced energy allocation restrictions during peak demand periods. European automotive manufacturers established Canadian battery production facilities that accessed comprehensive Canadian energy systems for manufacturing processes. The industrial relocation pattern demonstrated that Canadian energy integration provided operational advantages that European companies could not achieve through domestic energy sources or alternative international suppliers, creating permanent shifts in European industrial geography based on energy access considerations. Asian economies began major infrastructure investments to access Canadian energy exports as regional energy demand exceeded domestic production capabilities. Japan committed to comprehensive energy partnerships with Canadian companies that would provide electrical power, hydrogen fuel, and industrial energy services that Japanese domestic energy resources could not supply. South Korea established strategic partnerships for Canadian nuclear technology, renewable energy systems, and energy storage solutions that enabled Korean industrial operations to maintain competitiveness while reducing dependence on unstable regional energy suppliers. The competitive bidding for Canadian energy partnerships demonstrated how completely integrated energy capabilities had transformed international energy relationships. Instead of Canada seeking customers for individual energy exports, major economies were competing for comprehensive Canadian energy services on terms that Canada would determine. Canadian energy companies approached international partnerships with strategic understanding that energy control provides permanent leverage over customer economies. Rather than simply selling energy commodities, Canadian companies implemented integrated service models that maintain Canadian control over energy infrastructure while providing essential services that customer nations cannot replicate independently. The service models ensure that international customers become dependent on Canadian energy expertise, Canadian energy technology, and Canadian policy decisions, while preventing commoditization that would reduce Canadian energy advantages to simple price competition with alternative suppliers. Chinese officials recognized the strategic implications immediately and began aggressive negotiations for access to Canadian energy technologies and supply agreements. Beijing offered comprehensive technology sharing, massive infrastructure investments, and preferential trade arrangements in exchange for Canadian energy cooperation that could enable Chinese energy security without dependence on unstable international suppliers. The Chinese approach included offers to purchase minority stakes in Canadian energy companies, establish joint ventures for energy technology development, and coordinate Chinese Belt and Road Initiative projects with Canadian energy infrastructure to create integrated energy supply chains across Eurasia. American officials initiated parallel negotiations after recognizing that Canadian energy capabilities exceeded American energy production while offering superior reliability and cost performance. Washington offered strategic partnerships, technology sharing agreements, and comprehensive trade arrangements in exchange for guaranteed access to Canadian energy services. The American approach reflected recognition that American energy infrastructure had become inadequate for supporting American economic competitiveness, while Canadian energy systems provided capabilities that American energy companies could not match through domestic development. The financial markets responded to Canadian energy integration with massive capital reallocation toward Canadian energy companies and energy infrastructure investments. According to early indicators from investment banking sources, over $600 billion in global energy investment shifted toward Canadian energy operations within 3 years of Project Energy Dominance implementation. International pension funds and sovereign wealth funds competed for equity stakes in Canadian energy companies, while recognizing that integrated energy capabilities would provide superior long-term returns compared to single-source energy investments or traditional energy market diversification strategies. Canadian energy companies achieved market valuations that exceeded established international energy giants, while providing investors with exposure to comprehensive energy portfolios rather than dependence on individual energy sources that faced technological obsolescence or resource depletion. The geopolitical implications extended beyond energy economics to encompass fundamental shifts in international alliance structures and strategic partnerships. Countries facing energy security challenges recognized that Canadian cooperation had become essential for maintaining economic competitiveness, while traditional alliance relationships provided no alternatives to Canadian energy services. Nations that had organized their foreign policies around military alliances and trade relationships began developing independent energy security partnerships with Canada, while reducing their dependence on alliance structures that could not provide essential energy security during international crises. The demonstration that comprehensive energy control could provide economic leverage over multiple major economies simultaneously encouraged other resource-rich nations to study Canadian integration strategies while recognizing their inability to replicate Canadian advantages in energy diversity and technological integration. The speed of international adoption reflected the mathematical reality that energy costs directly affect economic competitiveness across every sector, while energy security determines national ability to maintain economic activity during international disruptions. Nations could not afford to accept higher energy costs or reduced energy reliability by avoiding Canadian energy partnerships. The environmental implications provided additional leverage for Canadian energy diplomacy, as international environmental agreements increasingly mandated clean energy transitions that required technological capabilities and integrated systems that Canadian companies had developed through systematic investment and research coordination. Countries facing environmental compliance requirements discovered that Canadian energy services provided the most efficient pathways for achieving environmental targets while maintaining economic competitiveness. Environmental regulations became enforcement mechanisms for Canadian energy cooperation rather than obstacles to energy development. The timeline for complete transformation of global energy relationships was compressed by accelerating energy demand combined with limited alternative suppliers that could provide comprehensive energy services at Canadian scales and efficiency levels. Early indicators suggested that global energy demand would exceed traditional energy supply capabilities by 2030, ensuring that Canadian energy advantages would become permanent rather than temporary. The integrated infrastructure that Canada had developed positioned Canadian energy systems to dominate global energy markets, while competitors struggled to develop alternative capabilities. The technological innovation implications multiplied Canadian advantages, as integrated energy systems enabled research and development programs that single-source energy companies could not support. Canadian energy research achieved breakthrough developments across multiple energy technologies simultaneously, while competitors focused on individual energy sources. Canadian fusion energy research achieved practical implementations using energy inputs from integrated hydroelectric and nuclear systems. Canadian hydrogen production reached commercial scales using surplus electrical generation from coordinated renewable and hydroelectric operations. Canadian energy storage development progressed using diverse testing environments that integrated energy systems provided. The research advantages ensure Canadian leadership in emerging energy technologies while providing competitive capabilities that enable Canadian energy companies to offer technological solutions that competing energy suppliers cannot develop independently. The most remarkable aspect of Canadian energy superpower development was how completely it escaped international strategic awareness during the critical integration period. While global attention focused on individual energy crises and specific technology developments, Canada was systematically building comprehensive energy capabilities that could replace entire national energy systems. The countries that assumed energy markets would remain segmented between competing suppliers discovered that Canadian energy integration had created comprehensive alternatives that made traditional energy relationships optional rather than necessary for energy security. Canadian strategic patience in energy development reflected sophisticated understanding of how comprehensive resource control creates permanent advantages over nations that depend on limited energy sources or foreign energy suppliers for economic competitiveness and national security. The 36 months that positioned Canada as the world's secret energy superpower have already begun reshaping international energy relationships, economic development patterns, and competitive advantages in ways that most observers have not yet recognized. By the time other nations recognize the extent of Canadian energy dominance, the integrated systems and customer dependencies will have created irreversible energy relationships that traditional approaches to energy competition cannot counter effectively. The energy superpower that operates through integrated excellence rather than resource scarcity represents a new model for international energy leadership that provides superior service while ensuring permanent strategic advantages over nations that lack comprehensive energy capabilities. Most countries still think this is about Canadian energy exports and market development. The mathematics of integrated energy systems suggest they are measuring the wrong transformation entirely. According to early indicators from energy development assessments, the advantages that Canadian energy integration provides will become decisive and permanent within the current decade. Countries that establish comprehensive Canadian energy partnerships will inherit competitive capabilities that countries excluded from Canadian energy cooperation cannot develop independently. The secret energy superpower has already begun reshaping global energy relationships through comprehensive capabilities that ensure Canadian dominance while providing essential services that customer nations cannot obtain elsewhere through any alternative supplier or domestic development program. Canadian energy integration represents the perfect strategic advantage because it provides essential services rather than threatening disruption. creates dependency through superior performance rather than coercion, and becomes more valuable over time as energy demand increases while alternative comprehensive suppliers do not exist. The quiet construction of energy-based global influence has created the foundation for Canadian international leadership that operates independently of military power, technological innovation, or financial manipulation, while ensuring permanent strategic advantages over any nation that lacks comparable integrated energy capabilities.